DreAllDay.com.
DreAllDay.com. Topic of this video is being demanding, not just wishful. And I got to give a hat tip credit to a guy by the name of Dan Kennedy, who many of you probably never heard of. He's an older marketer. He was in the marketing game like way before we were doing the marketing on the internet, back when you were doing it in real life, like sending out physical mail and stuff like that. But he's still alive. He's basically in semi-retirement, but he had written this in a newsletter that he sent out not too long ago. And one of the things that he was talking about, because he wrote this book that I talk about this on my podcast, and by the time y'all see this video, that episode didn't come out yet, but he wrote a book called No BS Time Management. And Dan Kennedy wrote a whole bunch of books, and his whole theme was called No BS. Like how I say work on your game, his whole thing was No BS. So he has a bunch of books titled, just look up Dan Kennedy and No BS. Those of you who actually read books, and all y'all should read books, not just watch YouTube videos. But if you just look up Dan Kennedy and then put in the word no and then BS, you'll see all his books. He got a bunch of books, probably 20, 30 books. But anyway, one of these books is called No BS Time Management, and it's specifically made for entrepreneurs. But even if you're not an entrepreneur, you should read this book, because the principles that he shares in his book, you can apply to even if you have a 9-to-5 job, because a lot of you at your 9-to-5s, you still have a little bit of autonomy as to what you do, when you do it, you know, moving stuff around, stuff like that. So you still have autonomy as far as how you use your time, and you ain't spending all your time at work anyway. So even the time outside of work, you want to get more things done, that book will help you with the principles and the mindset around it. So one of the things that Dan Kennedy said in this, it was a newsletter that he wrote. This wasn't in his book. It was in one of his newsletters. And he said that many people, most people as a matter of fact, are way too compromising in life in general. Just way too compromising about the way things take place in their lives. And this is the main reason why many people fail to achieve their desired outcomes, because they are too easy. They too readily compromise when things don't go the way that they want them to go. So for example, he said, I can't remember the exact verbiage that he used, but I got it. Like I took a screenshot of it and put it in one of my folders, because it was such a great point that he made. He said, people will draw a line in the sand. You know how they say you draw a line in the sand, like I'm never accepting anything less than this. He said people will draw a line in the sand, then they'll back up and draw another line in the sand, then back up and draw another line in the sand. So it's not really a line. It's like people set standards that are not really standards, because they don't really enforce those standards upon themselves. They are too quick to settle, too quick to compromise. And he drew a juxtaposition by saying that people who are very successful, and by successful meaning people who achieve their outcomes, people who are very productive, people who make a lot of money, whatever you consider to be a lot, they are uncompromising, they are relentless, and they are demanding. They are not just wishful about things happening. And he explained that a person who's highly successful, when things are not going the way that they planned them to go, a highly successful person does not just sit back and say, oh well, sometimes it goes that way, and just get compromising and accepting of the situation. A highly successful person, and they don't just get annoyed, they get angry. They don't just get wishful, they become demanding. It's like it is completely unacceptable to a highly successful person for things to not go the way that they planned them to go. Now that doesn't mean that everything you want in life is going to go the way you want it to go, but it does mean that if you set plans and you set standards for yourself, or you set plans and standards for, let's say you have a staff, you have people who work for you, or you have people who are under your authority in whatever way, whether that means you hired some people, whether that means you contracted some folks, whatever the situation is, if whatever they're doing is less than the standard that you've set, or less than the level that you want them to perform, you don't accept that. That's not okay. That's not something that you just brush off and say, well, hey, this is as good as it gets. There's a time for that. There's a time when you hit the good enough point, but there's also a time when good enough ain't good enough. So each one of us needs to know, where's the line between the two? Where's the line between good enough and completely unacceptable? You need to know what that line is, and where is okay for somebody to do 80% of what you need and where they got to do 100% of what you need. And sometimes 80% is all right, sometimes 80% is not all right. So, for example, by the time you see this video, this might have got implemented by the time you see this video, but I got with the company that makes like thumbnails for YouTube videos. I don't know, by the time this video might have it, might not. But anyway, I got this company that they do design, graphic design. And for what I'm paying them, the graphics that I have them create, they need to be a certain level. And if they're not a certain quality, I even said to them, I said this in no uncertain terms. Any graphic that you all create needs to be something better than anything I could have created by myself. Because if I could have created it by myself, then what I'm paying you for? And I said that directly to them. Why? Because I'm paying them. Now, if I wasn't paying them, or I was paying them for another job, but I asked them to do this as a side job, the graphics, that'd be different. But if y'all main thing is graphics, then all your graphics need to look like way better than anything I could do on my own. I ain't no graphic designer. I'm not terrible at it, but I'm not amazing at it either. So your stuff needs to look better than my stuff. And if it doesn't, well, what's going to happen? They're going to get fired. And I'm using that just as an example. But you all need to know what these lines are for you in your life with the people that you work with. And then let's back up. Forget about other people. You got to start with yourself. Because if you're not holding yourself to these kind of standards, if you're not demanding on yourself when it comes to how things get done, what gets done, when it gets done, at what level it gets accomplished, if you're not demanding with yourself about these things, demanding on yourself with these things, then who are you to hold another person accountable? The answer is you're nobody. You ain't qualified to hold another person accountable to perform at a certain level if you don't even hold yourself accountable to perform at a certain level. So what level are you demanding of yourself? What kind of standards are you holding yourself to, and are you holding yourself accountable to those standards? When you come up short of your own standards, what happens? If you're not achieving things at the level that you said you want to achieve them, what do? What kind of conversation are you having with yourself? Are you just brushing it off, saying, hey, this is just how it goes, it's okay, you'll get them next time? Or are you saying, no, this is completely not okay, I'm not allowing this to go, and something's going to change, it's going to change right now? What are you doing with yourself? Are you holding yourself to those levels? Are you holding yourself to that level of standard? And the whole point of what Dan Kennedy was saying here, and what I'm conveying to you through me, is that what makes high-level people high-level is not that they have the things that we usually pay attention to when we think the reason why we're not doing what we want to do is usually we default to these tangible resource excuses. Like, I don't have time, money, I don't know the right people, I don't have the right information, somebody's just more talented than me, somebody has more access to me. Y'all know the usual excuses that we all use when we're not getting the outcomes that we want. We say, well, somebody just has access or they have resources that I simply don't have. That's the reason why they're doing things that I'm not doing. That's not the reason. The main reason that another person is performing consistently at a level higher than you. Now, I'm not just talking some random occurrence. I'm talking consistently. Someone's consistently outperforming you is because they have a standard that is different from your standard. Their thermostat is set at a temperature that's different than your thermostat is set at. And if you want to raise your level of performance, not even worrying about who other people are or what they got, but you just want to raise your level of performance at any time, in any aspect of your life, number one thing you need to do is change the default setting of your standards. Your default setting is, when it comes to money, your default setting is you make $65,000 a year. That's where you're comfortable. And you want to make more money, then you got to change your default setting to $95,000 a year, or $150,000, or $400,000, or $800,000, or whatever it is that you want. If your default setting is you're in okay shape to where you're not fat and embarrassed, but it also ain't that great, if that's your default setting, you need to change it to, my default setting is I got a six-pack and I can run 5 miles without stopping, and I don't even need to get a drink of water in the middle of the run. All you got to do is change your standards. You got to change your default setting to what's okay. Your default setting is I set my alarm for 6 o'clock, but if I get up by 6:45, I'm good. You got to change your default setting to, if my alarm is set for 6 o'clock, then that means by 6:05, I'm already washing my face and brushing my teeth because I got out of bed when the alarm went off. So all you need to do is look at your default settings in life and start changing them to the levels that you want them to get to. In the next video, I'm gonna talk about some of these default settings that all of us have, and some simple ways that any of us can start changing what our defaults are, such that we can start stepping up our levels in life. And again, I'm gonna go over some general ones that can apply to everybody, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, where you're at in life. So I'll do that in the next video that's coming up. So with that said, I send out this text called a Daily Motivation every single day for free to everybody in my text community. It'll have you focused, sharp, and on point to start the day. All you gotta do to get it is text me at my number. It's 305-384-6894. The number is always down below in the description to all these videos. So you just scroll down to the description, you'll see that number. Just text me at that number. You'll be getting a Daily Motivation every single day for free. And secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's where I do all my coaching. So any of you who's ever wondered, Dre, do you do any coaching? Is there a way that I could talk to you on a regular basis and get coached by you, like ask you questions, just have you as a person who can kind of mentor me and help me and work with me on certain things when it comes to my mindset, my business strategies, putting systems in place so I can have consistent outcomes and just holding me accountable? The answer is yes, there is a way to do that, and that answer is Work on Your Game University. Again, the only place I do that is at workonyourgameuniversity.com. The link to that is also down below in the description to this video. Just scroll down to the description. You'll see the link to the university as well as the number to get my daily motivation text. And that's all you got to do. Work on your game. Dre all day.